Hey guys, what is going on? It is Brooke, or the Undead DM. I'm back at it again with another homebrew review for you today. And in this episode, like I stated in my previous homebrew review episode, I'm going to be going over the captain class from Vault of Spire Secrets. Going to give you an overview of the class, what it can do, and after each section, give you a brief dissertation as to what I think of the ability, feature, what have it, what I think of its general power, and how I think it stacks up to other classes. And in general, just give you a review of how I think the base class works. And in the next two episodes, I'm going to be going over its subclasses as well as its unique feature that we will go over in a little bit. So without further ado, let's just get started. So without reading all this mumbo jumbo, the captain is essentially the warlord or the summoner, sort of. Basically, the captain acts as the class that you play when you want to play two characters, because that's essentially what you get. So, you'll see here, based on this page, I guess we should go over the quick build first. So it's recommended you make Charisma your highest, and then Strength. And then you take the History and Persuasion skills, and then the Dueling Fighting style. Very interesting combination why they recommend you take certain skills as opposed to other things, but we'll check that out in a second. So, at level 1, you have a d8 hit die, and you get proficiency in light armor, medium armor, and shield, all weapons, no tools. You get proficiency in constitution and charisma saving throws, and you get to pick between two skills of your choice of animal handling, athletics, deception, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and persuasion. And for starting equipment, if you care to do that, you can either take scale mail or leather armor, a dagger and a warhammer, or a longsword and any simple weapon, a light crossbow with 20 bolts or a short bow with 20 arrows, or 5 javelins, an embroidered standard, and an adventurer's pack or a kit you're proficient with. So right off the bat, based on what I'm reading here, the fact that it gets the same the proficiencies as a cleric does insinuates to me that this is going to be more of a mid-range character. So the point of this character is to stay between the defenders, like the paladin and the fighter, but ahead of the controller classes like the wizard and the sorcerer. That is their job. They are basically the leaders, where they are meant to stay within range of everybody. So having this kind of armor proficiency is fine, as well as all armor and weapons, or all weapons, is fine. Gives you a lot of options. And since you're not really going to be in the front line, and you're kind of the secondary front line, it makes a lot of sense as to why you'd have a D8. Though, in a system that I'm making, I've made the defender style classes have the highest hit die, and I'm starting to lower them. So things like the fighter and the paladin have the highest hit die at a D12, and then the barbarian, the rogue, and all them, since they're going to be frontline, like they're going to be the damage dealers that are going to be in melee, they have D10s, and then just goes lower and lower. Basically, the lower priority, or the higher priority target you are, the further back you are, the less HP you have. Meaning you're going to rely on your frontline. So the first ability is Born Leader. All this does is it gives you advantage on persuasion checks to convince anyone to let you take charge of a situation or give orders in a dangerous situation. Purely roleplay. And you can also use your charisma instead of your intelligence for any ability check made relates to planning, strategy, or tactics. So basically, all forms. This could easily just say you can use your charisma for all intelligence-based checks, and it still wouldn't change the fundamentals of the ability that it's just a rhythm feature. It does really nothing for your character outside of roleplay. It doesn't help you at all. It's purely for roleplay purposes. You only get access to 4 fighting styles. I did mention in one of my videos prior to this, I think it was the Targon the Ancient's heroic fighter, that baseline fighting styles as they are, they're either too good, like archery, or they're really bad, like protection. And what they all need to do is they all need to be leveled. So you need to lower the power of the good ones and raise the power of the bad ones to be equal with one another. But having just 4 options baseline and no other ways to get more outside of a feat, it feels bad. Especially if you wanted to be like a captain that uses a 2-handed weapon. So the only 4 you get access to are archery, defense, dueling, and protection. The only good one here is archery. And then at level 2 you get your signature ability called a cohort. You basically pick a person randomly, doesn't matter what, and you take 8 hours. And during that time you convert them into your cohort. And at any time if they're ever slain, they could be resurrected by normal means, or you can take another random person off the street and turn them into your cohort after 8 hours. And if you choose to do that, the original cohort loses all features, and the new cohort takes over. The cohort obeys your commands like a summon. It takes its turn immediately after yours each round, and you determine its actions, decisions, attitudes, so on. And if you're incapacitated or absent, the cohort acts on its own. And at 2nd, 6th, 10th, 14th, and 18th level, the cohort gets an ability based on which cohort you chose. And its hit points increase accordingly. And whenever you get an ability score improvement, the cohort can increase 1 ability score by 2, or 2 ability scores by 1. They can't go above 20. But they also can't take any feats. So this is basically just a summon, and in a lot of cases, summons are good because they either add more tankiness to the team by providing an additional body and more HP to soak up damage, but a lot of the times it needs to either take a lot of damage, like the Conjure Animal spell, or it needs to waste a large resource. And unless the cohort has a lot of HP or has ways to supplement its poor HP with other things like high damage, I don't think this summon's going to really stick around all that long. But then again, it's essentially a free summon every 8 hours. And it obeys your commands and never goes against them in any way. So it's fine, I guess. But that'll be covered in another video about all the different kinds of cohorts. Maybe it might be covered in the subclasses video. But I'm pretty sure based on my last video, the subclasses are going to take the longest. So, we'll do that. Sorry. We'll do that later. So, forgot. So, proficiencies, the cohort gets proficiencies. It has proficiency in skills listed. It has proficiency with simple and martial weapons, light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, or shields, if it contains them. And it uses your proficiency bonus. And that's it. and its alignment is whatever. It's one step of your own. And basically it just has the red shirt character trait, where it's they'll follow you until death. Your banner at level 3, that's just your subclass. Again, like I've stated in other videos, this would be better if it was earlier, but I understand why it's not. It would make multi-classing way too strong, which see my rant on multi-classing. War tactics. These are essentially just Battlemaster maneuvers. So you get 2 dice, which are d8s. They come back every short or long rest, or when you roll initiative. They change size based on level, as you can see in the table here. It requires your charisma to make for the DC, and you get 3 options that you can use. You have Brace, where as a bonus action, you can expend a dice, and each allied creature within 30 feet of you adds the die to all saving throws until the end of your next turn. Rally, so as a bonus action, to expend a die, and each allied creature within 60 feet of you, they regain hit points equal to the die roll plus your charisma modifier, but you can't use it to heal somebody from 0. And staggering strike, as a bonus action, you can extend a die, and the target must make a con save or become incapacitated until the start of your next turn. 3 options just doesn't feel like enough to me, but that could change later on with the class based on the cohorts and what their abilities are. But just from a baseline perspective, so far the only options you've had are your fighting style, which cohort you have, and that's it. And your subclass, but it's kind of a given. You're going to have to pick your subclass at some point. Other than that, you have no additional maneuvers in the base class. It is a bit sad. It reminds me a lot of the 1 D&D Rogue, where they tried giving Rogue a little bit of options, but then they didn't take into account that people may want more options. So, yeah. Standard ability score, improvement, scaling, so 4, 8, 12, 16, 19. 5th level, instead of extra attack, they get Blitz. So as a bonus action, you can direct either your cohort or a friendly creature within 60 feet, and they use their reaction to move up to their speed and make a single weapon attack. Alright, I guess. It certainly is giving more Warlord vibes from 4th edition, where they had a similar power that allowed somebody to, I'm not sure it was called reaction, but I'm pretty sure it was called reaction. They could shift up to their speed and make an attack against a creature. So, very much giving that kind of vibes. Certainly fine, but it costs you your bonus action, which is fine. But it'd be a lot better if then instead of them using their reaction, they could just do that. But hey, whatever. And then you go from 5th to 9th really quickly, which is strange, because you have all this, you have 6th, 7th, and 8th, where you only get a subclass feature and an ability score improvement. So, whatever. At 9th level, your 3 options that you got from your war tactics improve. So, Brace, you can they add their die to the ability checks until the beginning of your next turn. Rally, that they also gain temporary hit points equal to your captain level. And Staggering Strike, you add the die to the damage roll. I think these are a bit late. I think you could have put this at 5th level with Blitz, and nobody would have cared. Or even better, just make them part of the base ability. Because Battle Master fighters can do the same thing at 3rd level, or in mine and Targon's case, 1st level, they add the damage, they add the die to the damage already, but you have to wait 6 additional levels just to get that ability. This is kind of a terrible level, but I think if it was just added to the baseline and then something else replaced this, or give them additional effects, like, so Brace gives them advantage on saves and ability checks, make it so that Brace can also affect attack rolls, I don't know. And then Rally's fine, it could stay as the improvement, but then Staggering Strike, make it so like the creature has disadvantage or something. Or even that on top of doing the damage, if they fail, they take the damage again, or they're pushed, knocked prone, something like that. And then you go from 9th to 11th, where whenever you attack a creature that your cohort hit with an attack, since the end of your last turn, you deal 2d8 damage. So the way this is worded is a little strange to me. So whenever you attack, so you as the captain, whenever you attack a creature that your summon hit with an attack since the end of your last turn. So basically, if it's turn 1 and you choose to have your cohort go before you, your cohort attacks, and then you as the captain go next. You walk up and you attack him, you deal 2d8. But that, you see, that makes sense. But if you go in the opposite direction, where you go first and then your cohort goes, that means that since it lasts until the end of your last turn, that means you can go first, do all your stuff as a captain, then have your cohort attack, and then by the time it comes to the start of your next turn, because it's not the end of this turn, you still get that 2d8. It's a little bit convoluted, and it would just be better if you just gained that damage against a target that your cohort is hitting. But I guess they thought that for 11th level, getting an additional 9 damage every turn, if you only hit once, because you only have 1 attack, you don't have extra attack. So getting an additional 9 points of damage on average was just too much of an ability to give to them by all the time. It just had to be a very specific stipulation. Lead by example at 15th level. Whenever you roll a 20 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, each friendly creature within 30 feet of you has advantage whenever they make the same type of roll until the beginning of your next turn. This would be okay if it wasn't contingent on rolling a 20. If this was just whenever you succeed a saving throw, like if you succeeded on a saving throw, they gained advantage on their next d20 roll, this would be fine. But even then, I think it's still too high. I think this could have been where not level 9 is, because you gotta remember, levels 10 through 14 are endgame. Not a lot of 5th edition campaigns go past that point. So the fact that your players are going to be so insanely strong at this level is ludicrous. To think that giving allies advantage, which is an average +5, is deemed as a game-ending, world-breaking experience, similar onto the levels of spellcasters getting 7th to 8th level spells. It's crazy. And then eventually they just come out and say level 20, you're a warlord. Just ripping that name straight from 4th edition right there. So let's see what you get. When a friendly creature you could see within 30 feet, and this is an attack against a creature within its range, turn the miss into a hit. Or if a creature fails a save throw, treat it as 20. Once per short and long rest. So all they've done is they've just taken the rogue's stroke of luck ability and given it to it. That's all they've done. They have done nothing original with this. It has the same problems as the rogue capstone. It is not going to come up a lot because you're never going to get to that point. And on top of that, sure, giving it once per short or long rest as opposed to once per long rest is definitely a buff to the ability. But this could be an ability at 9th level. This could be a 9th level ability and nobody would bat an eye. It is that bad. And the fact that it only works on friendly creatures. And they have to be within 30 feet of you. If this was just within your line of sight, then I could see it being a little bit higher level, maybe 11th. But the fact that it's limited in range, and sure, it doesn't have the stipulation that they have to be able to hear you, but you have to be able to see them. So if they're within 30 feet, but they're, say, behind a wall through things like Wall of Stone, you can't do anything. So, overall, I think this class is very weak. It is very weak for what it's trying to be. It's sort of a summoner-based class, but it does the job very poorly. As I think all the power was poured into the cohort, and not a lot of abilities were given to the baseline captain, so they spent their entire power budget on the companions as opposed to the captain itself. That might change with the subclasses, though. Which there are, like 7 of them, which is a lot. But with that being said, overall, I would definitely give this a like a C. I'm not gonna C on a tier list. It is definitely one of the least appealing classes so far. Baseline. At least the Alchemist had something going for it, where it had a lot of options and a lot of customizability. With this, there is none. There is none. You have like 3 options, and that's it. You have fighting style, you have cohorts, and your subclass. You get to pick nothing else for the rest of the game. Everything is just given to you, which makes sense for a martial. But you would think with a supplement like this that was given so much crowdfunding and is made by people who have been playing this game for a long time, and from their old videos, what I was able to see from their old videos, they had 4th edition books right there. They even referenced 4th edition with the way this class is structured as the warlord-inspired class. The fact that this class is a very bad warlord, it gets little to no options, and the options it does get are so minuscule in power that it doesn't even matter. Its level up abilities are mediocre or ribbon features, and the only thing that is possibly going to save it from being any lower is the fact that some of the cohorts might be stronger. Might. But the fact that the entire power budget so far has just been given to the cohorts, it seems, is sad. Because that means that they can't put any power into the base class, because if they do, they think, well, the base class is so much stronger now, but if we give it any more power, then the cohorts become like a secondary option, and it's not really a thing that we want to do. We want to focus on the cohorts. So if we make the captain stronger, then we inadvertently make the cohorts weaker because they're less needed. Yeah, the whole point of a warlord in 4th edition was to aid your allies, was to make them stronger. But they themselves were also capable. This captain is not capable. He just stands there and does nothing. He stands there issuing commands. He doesn't even have an at-will power that allows him to control people, because that's locked behind a bonus action. And on top of that, his cohort has most likely less HP than him, and maybe, depending on the type of cohort you pick, less armor. So putting him into melee is not a good idea. And if he does have a mage cohort, that's probably the best option you're going to get. Yeah, I would say overall the only thing saving this class from an even lower rank than C and dropping it all the way down to F, maybe even D, I'd probably even put it in D, like D or E, is solely because I am unsure of how powerful the cohorts are. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode of Homebrew Review, where we'll be going over all the subclasses. Latest.